All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And greetings from Washington, D.C. It is a remote broadcast. How about it for Albert, who has decided to join us today? I'm so excited to have Albert alongside.
Albert, thank you.
You know, Albert, just you and myself today. No Kim within the show. However, Kim, who has taken her family to the happiest place on earth.
What?
Yes, I'm not talking about the Oval Office during the new Trump administration, which is the happiest place on earth for so many who are close to DJT. I'm talking about Disneyland, which is a place to forget about politics, to forget about democracy ebbing away from a once great country, America. It's a place to embrace Mickey and Minnie and Donald and the Star Wars franchise and all the Disney, what am I trying to say, Albert? They're the holdings of the Walt Disney Company. Franchises, I think is the word I was looking for. But anyway, Kim is there with her kids, and her kids are right at that age where they're going to be rocking Disneyland. I can't wait to get a first-hand account of it. That will happen at the top of the second hour. And also today, Courtney is going to be along to announce the rebirth of our merch site. And the merch now, Albert, and this may come as a stunning revelation to you particularly, because you're used to the feckless, inept way that we do things on this show.
Albert, thank you.
But you can get the merch right below our YouTube feed. So if you're watching on YouTube, they offer you the merch there right below our feed, which is kind of a cool new thing that we're doing. So we had to kind of begin a relationship with a new merch company, and everything is pretty inexpensive for this holiday week. I don't know if it's a Black Friday thing. Courtney will be on to, and let me just say this. I know I'm talking about this now, but we don't really make any money on the merch, so it's not like a big thing that I'm pushing to get money into the show. But I think it's kind of a fun thing, and Courtney helped redesign the logo of the show, so you really may enjoy it. And I am really encouraging you to check it out, because it's something that she worked really hard on, and she will update us bottom of the hour on how you can get it, if you want to get it, etc. Albert, you're going to watch the chat for me, right? Because I am having trouble with this configuration on remote with the chat, meaning I can't monitor it quite as closely.
Yeah, so, you find this hard to see here from Kelly Malloy, $2.
Kelly Malloy, who is one of our OGs, one of the original supporters in our community of supporters, and a big shout out to you, first of all, for the super sticker, and a thank you so much. And I thank you. We
also have another
Kathleen Bryant for $20, a $19.99 super sticker. Big shout out. How about that? As we ramp up to Thanksgiving, we're crowdfunded, so we do make a kind of a big deal out of the crowd. The audio is bad. What happened?
Your audio, your audio isn't coming through right now.
No, that's bizarre, huh?
Sorry, everyone. We're just figuring stuff out on remote.
Test. No better? No? That's weird. Huh. No? Should I drop out and come back in? I'll drop out and come back in.
No audio from my end. Or from you. I can't hear your audio from my end.
Okay, let me do this.
Which is weird because we did have everything all set pre-show.
Let me leave the studio.
So bear with us as we live produce this.
I do have audio coming from here. I don't know what's happening. You still
your audio is it's working again. It's
okay.
Back.
Wow. Really wild. It is true that we're on remote, and the internet here may fade in and out. I'm in Washington, D.C. This is the home I grew up in. This is where I begged for the car every day. Yeah, I know you kids like you, Albert. Can you still hear me, Albert? Are you having?
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat right now. I think it was just a me problem. Everybody's saying that it was me, so
Wow, Albert. Oh, so
apologies.
really, would you like to apologize? How would you like to do this?
I'd like a Stephen A. apology. That's
A Stephen A. apology. I don't think I have it.
Wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Fortunately, you had it. Okay, good. So the Asian community was fine. All right. So what I did want to mention is, Albert, you, I'm guessing, got a car when you were 16 or something, right? You were given your own car, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
I get for the car all the time, and it wasn't some nice car. It was a station wagon. Okay, so it wasn't some sexy ride that I was begging for. It was a station wagon, a tan-colored station wagon, and I had to have it back in pristine shape. I had to have the gas in it. I had to have it in pristine shape, and I had to maintain a grade point average in order to still have privileges to drive the station wagon. Okay, so that's the life I grew up in, Albert. Okay, listen, don't get me wrong. It wasn't exactly Mumbai, okay? But I'm just saying that it was a different kind of experience than you, for example, Albert, spoiled California kid that you had to that you lived. It was a different lived experience. So I've come back here to this place, Washington D.C., where I begged for the use of that car, and I remember now a story which I'll share with you quickly. My sister, okay. Now, I have two sisters. They're both super smart people. And I tell you this from my parents' home. So I'm just giving you this story kind of conjured in the moment because I'm, as I say, kind of in the family residence, right? So my two sisters are really brilliant. There's the one ultra literary, brilliant sister, like super, top of her class, Stanford, top of her class, Columbia, top of her class, insanely brilliant. She's not part of this story. There's another sister who is also insanely brilliant, but more practical, street smart kind of, but also really learned, but really smart in all these other ways. So I don't know why it's important that they're smart, because this story is really about how the second sister, the street smart sister, comes back with the car that I have to have in pristine condition when I return it to my folks after a night out. And there's a dent in the side of the car, but I mean like a dent in the rear passenger side, and it was clear that she hit something or she drove, and she had just come the night before from a Grateful Dead concert, and I said to Mom and Dad, "What's going on? I mean, there's a dent in the car. How am I ever going to be able to meet girls in a tan station wagon with a dent in it?" And my sister's explanation that they bought was she has a heavy-set friend who leaned against the car and made a dent in it. I mean, are you kidding me? Even I said, "Are you kidding?" That's the worst excuse ever. Why not just say, "I came back and there was a dent in the car"? I mean, that would be better than "I was there and a friend." I mean, so she was coming from a Dead concert, and in the car, I drove it the next day, there were beer cans in the floor area of the back seat. I mean, she didn't even bother to clean up the crime scene, but still, my parents let her skate. That's the kind of asymmetric justice that I grew up with, Albert, and you can tell it still burns in my soul that it was not fair. Is the point. That's why I have a thing about fairness to this very day.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Inequality, exactly. Who said it? Karen Cooper. Karen Cooper also had a good comment before we got on the air. I thought I put it to the side, but maybe I didn't, Albert.
This one.
Yeah, let me just blow this up so I can see it. It's not just direct money from tariffs. She was talking about the tariff thing. It's all the money spent in companies bribing officials for exemptions. By the way, that's a big point that Karen has mentioned. We'll get into the tariffs thing right now in a second. I've got a story before I get heavy into politics, but I did want to say that she's right. I mean, there's going to be a cottage industry and essentially sucking up to Trump and Trump administration officials to essentially evade a lot of these tariffs that are going to be imposed. And there's a lunacy to this. I mean, if you're really in your heart of hearts, Donald Trump, looking at things objectively and not sort of covering your ass and doubling down on bad ideas, which is just your kind of way of asserting yourself, and it's all ego and aggression, you would look at the U.S. economy and you would say, I don't want to touch anything. Things are on a solid course. You have the healthiest economy in the developed world, and there is no reason to touch anything. I would counsel him, make speeches, say you're doing stuff, but don't touch anything. That's not what it looks as though he's going to do, because he has to, of course, touch everything. He has to lift his leg on every bit of policy that he can. He has to erase the last administration. So much of his leadership is about ego. And so I'll get to tariffs in a second, but I wanted to essentially set the scene with that comment, which jumped out at me, and I thought it was a
What can you tell us about the scene?
Wanted to set the scene, Larry. Let's go with a. Can I give you a non? I wanted to give you a non-political story before we start. So I'll begin with this.
The Mark Thompson Show.
MIT, where I know all of us could go. It was always just because of the money that we couldn't go to MIT. All of us, the money and the grades and the
everything else.
Test scores. Yeah, exactly. MIT is going to offer free tuition to families earning less than $200,000.
What?
They announced that they are going to eliminate tuition costs next fall for all undergraduate students whose families earn less than $200,000 a year. This is a national movement to try to make higher education more accessible. The accessibility for those of you who want to go to MIT, or you have family members who want to go, still is going to depend, in the case of MIT, on a pretty rarefied academic environment. You have to do pretty well. But that said, this takes maybe some of the financial pressure off. For students whose families earn less than $100,000 a year, the university is also going to cover all other costs, including housing, dining fees, an allowance for books, personal expenses. MIT, the private research university, it's based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, is ranked among the best higher education institutions in the world. And tuition for the 2024-2025 school year was roughly $62,000, according to their website. But when you add in housing and other fees on top of that $62,000, it's just under $86,000 a year to attend MIT. And that's insane. And that's just part of the problem. Higher education has been priced out to the point that it's really out of reach for much of America. And then we complain about the fact that we don't have a well-educated electorate. The reality is the price of higher education has so outpaced any kind of cost of living increase, anything related to higher education, I'd suggest, began to get out of the grasp of the middle class 30 years ago. It's been an ongoing thing, such that you have, in effect, and this is why it's why you can make a populist argument, although when you actually look at an administration like the Trump administration, it's populated by all of these people, all of whom, or the majority of whom, attended these schools that we're talking about. But the entire situation developed over decades such that it was out of reach for the middle class. You don't have a middle class that can reach these heights of all the liberal arts schools that populate the country. I'm talking about the Northeast is full of them. Even Harvard is a liberal arts school, but you don't have to leave Massachusetts, and you're tripping over all these liberal arts institutions that are incredibly expensive. And the reality is there are things at college beyond just the academics at college that are so very important. And I think so many Americans are cheated out of that. But I've also said on this show many times, you don't need higher education. You just don't need it on some level. You don't need to go to college. Now, you need learned experience. I'd also suggest you need some sort of historical perspective, cultural perspective. These things can come from college or a collegiate environment or a formal academic environment, but they can also come in a way, in other ways. I mean, many people are, these self-didacts who show up in their professions and then scorch the competition. It does happen. But when it comes to really sort of building, I'd suggest a kind of solid base intellectually, let's say, just to be able to ask important questions, to be able to process information, you do need higher education. It doesn't have to be in the form of college. It can be in the form of schooling of some kind. I love the community college scene. People always make fun of community college. I don't know why. There's great learning going on at community college. There's great teaching going on in a community college environment. And it's far more affordable and oftentimes convenient. And even that is getting to be a little too expensive. So I applaud any effort to grant access, financial access, essentially, to those who can't afford it. And so bravo MIT, but I'd love to see all of higher education in some way become more accessible for the public at large. It might be a voucher system. It might be, well, listen, with Linda McMahon running the Department of Education, I know there is, I'm only one chair slam away from things all getting worked out. So that's the good news. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Also note this, which is away from politics. Dickies is the workwear brand. It's probably one of the best workwear brands in terms of being well known in the country. I don't know that it's one of the best in terms of quality of product, but I'm just saying when you're talking about a brand that's recognizable and that clearly has done their job in terms of marketing, Dickies is a winner. So Dickies is going to move, and they're not moving from California to Texas. Yeah, I know that's the move.
What?
They are moving from Texas to California.
What?
So Fort Worth is where they are now, and moving to Costa Mesa. And there's the Dickies brand, as producer Albert has put it up on the screen. You know Dickies. And Dickies and Vans are sister brands. And so Dickies is moving closer to their sister, Vans, and that is in Costa Mesa, California. And this is a kind of consolidation that has informed, apparently, a lot of these outdoorsy brands like North Face, Timberland, JanSport, and these kinds of consolidations we may see more of. But for now, Dickies is saying sayonara to Texas and hello to California.
They're doing the reverse move. Usually it's the opposite.
Yeah,
So,
we hear all of this stuff about Texas, but the reality is that people are coming back to California. At least Dickies is. So
Sayonara, sucker!
sayonara, yeah. We use Dickies and Vans for hip-hop costumes, says Murphy Rowan. There you go.
yeah, a lot of the
knew?
skate community likes Dickies. Obviously, Vans is a skate company, but even Dickies used to be more of a workwear type of situation. It's more of a lifestyle brand now than Carhartt would be more working material now.
Wow. Albert with impressive knowledge
Albert, thank you.
on the Dickies and Outdoors brand. Who knew? Very impressive. By the way, I saw Albert on Instagram hitting a golf shot. I just saw this video. It was in the last day or so. It was, first, I didn't really recognize him. I mean, I thought he's this studly dude who's hitting this golf shot. It looked like a pro hitting it. His form was perfect. His outfit was on point. It was quite impressive, Albert, I have to say.
Albert, thank you.
I mean, I think my dad used me early on. I was a child golfer. I was used as an excuse for my dad to go out to the golf course. So it's helped me out.
I love that. Well, it has helped you out. Hey, can I just get some of these? Sausalito Steve with a $10 super sticker and saying Happy Thanksgiving with a super chat. Thank you so much for that, Sausalito Steve. Big shout out to you and to everybody who supports us through the super sticker and super chat world. I also want to say hey to Kathleen Bryant with the 1999 super sticker. Big shout out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And that was a 1999 contribution to the show. It really does help us, especially, I must tell you, there are all sorts of ways in which, we have to look at various financial burdens as the new year comes up, and this is really quite helpful. So thank you guys. Jess, you'll down these, Albert. I'm just going to put them here so I can see them. I'm a citizen from birth, but filing papers to become a Mexican citizen and networking when things go bad for us. This is my home. Wow. That's a sobering super chat from Jess Martinez. Filing papers to become a Mexican citizen. By the way, I'd be curious to know what those are. Those are probably related to, obviously paperwork, but can you invest in Mexico and that's the way you get to be a citizen there? I don't know how it works. Meaning, sometimes on these things, it's just a question of money. But good luck. And I'm sorry to hear that. And I understand it too. I understand why that might be a concern. What else is there? Anything, Albert?
Yeah, from Jim.
Jim Slayton says, my first car was a 1962 Rambler Classic with fold-down rumpus room seats. I don't even know what the... There's never been anything like it.
I've never seen anything like it.
So how about that? Yeah, well, I guess I'd rather have your car than the tan station wagon that I had at my house. Spencer Jaffe, I still love your show. Hope the libs finally get over the election. We agree on most issues. Spencer Jaffe with a $10 super chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Spencer. And I don't think the libs are ever going to get over the election because the reminder of what the election is going to wrought, or what it's wrought, is going to be visited upon us every day. But that said, I think smart libs or smart lefties, or even those on the right who just don't like the chaos and don't like the sort of amorality of the incoming administration, I'd suggest to you, and of course it's amorality flying under the flag of morality, right? This is sort of the worst kind of grift. It is, the moral high ground being grabbed by those who are immoral, right? You see this, I'll give you an extreme example of this is in the church, right? If you have a religious situation with a priest, let's say, or other, it doesn't have to be Catholic priest, but whatever it is. Catholic church, sadly, is now somewhat infamous for this. And you know that priest is involved in activities that are despicable. Still, that priest operates under the flag of morality, flag of, if you will, almost divine morality and divine justice, yeah? And the credibility and the respectability associated with that, we confer to that priest or holy man. And even as that holy man or priest or whatever commits these grotesque acts. So the acts are being committed that are wildly immoral and gross, and yet they're being committed, those acts, while flying the flag of morality and justice for all. It's particularly despicable. And that, I fear, is really what's happening in Washington, D.C., where I'm sitting now, just a few miles from where I am, at the White House. The incoming administration, in my opinion, while it's a mishmash of chaos and odd appointments and those who probably wouldn't pass a security clearance on even their best day, it is also flying under the flag of justice and populism. And this is a scary place to be. So I will talk more about this, obviously, in the days to come. But I did want to get Albert. I know Courtney's coming on in a couple of minutes to talk merch with us. But would you mind if I quickly segued to the tariff situation? Because I think that it's important that we touch on it.
Yes, we still have some super chats and super stickers, but we can get to that after. We can get to that
after. All right, okay.
Albert, thank you.
The interesting thing that's happening, and I'll only just take a couple of seconds, and I'll let you watch this package. But I would just say the interesting thing that's happening is Donald Trump has so seized the headlines and seized the agenda preemptively. You know, he's not president yet. He hasn't even signed this ethics agreement. I understand he signed a transition agreement, which he was reluctant to sign and his people were reluctant to sign, but they have signed that. But there is a presidential ethics agreement which does have to be signed. It's the law that it has to be signed. He has not signed that yet, at least as of last I checked. So even as that's happening, he's making all of these pronouncements. And these pronouncements are putting the rest of the world on edge because they're related to a coming trade war. The tariff threat, which is the threat that he dangles. I mean, clearly he feels like tariffs are the answer to everything, is something that could be wildly destabilizing, and it's being responded to in that way. Here's a little piece from last night to kind of give you the state of the state after Trump made the announcement yesterday.
President-elect Trump says he will impose 25% tariffs on day one against our neighbors, Canada and Mexico. Tonight, Mexico says it will slap a tariff on U.S. goods in exchange. Trump pointing to the border, fentanyl, and illegal immigration. But tonight, this question here, who pays for these tariffs? U.S. companies bringing the products into the U.S. pay the tariff at first and then sell those products to U.S. shoppers. So will those costs be passed on to consumers? Here's Terry Moran tonight.
In a statement that rattled markets worldwide, President-elect Donald Trump declared that on day one of his new administration, he will impose the most sweeping tariffs in recent history, targeting America's nearest neighbors and biggest trading partners. I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States and its ridiculous open borders, Trump posted on social media. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. It's the fulfillment of a campaign pledge.
And I'm putting tariffs on Mexico. Every damn thing that they sell into the United States is going to have like a 25% tariff until they stop drugs from coming in.
The United States does more than $1 trillion in trade with Canada and Mexico every year, from consumer electronics to cars and trucks to fresh fruit and vegetables. Trump's new tariffs would not be paid by Canada and Mexico, but by U.S. companies and stores, who will pass on much of the cost to consumers by raising prices on their products. Best Buy and Walmart already warning today new tariffs will mean higher price tags. Reaction to Trump's announcement was swift. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum threatening to impose retaliatory tariffs on American goods.
A un arancel vendrá otro en respuesta.
Saying the border crisis cannot be solved with threats and tariffs, warning that if the U.S. imposes tariffs, quote, it is not acceptable and would cause inflation and job losses in the U.S. and Mexico. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took a softer line, saying he spoke to Trump.
This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
Trump is using these tariffs to pressure Canada and Mexico to help him deliver on his key campaign promise, securing the border. Today in Texas, Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan, was laying the groundwork for mass deportations.
Let me be clear. There is going to be a mass deportation, because we just finished a mass illegal immigration crisis on the border.
And Homan warned local officials and ordinary citizens not to stand in the way.
We're a nation of laws, and we're going to enforce our laws. And I'm sending a message for people that say they're going to get in our way. They're going to stop us from doing what we're doing on the interior enforcement operation. I've said 100 times in the last week, don't cross that line.
Trump also declared in a separate social media post that he will slap a 10% tariff on all imports from China until Beijing stops the flow of illegal fentanyl into the U.S. And again, though Trump says China will pay those tariffs directly to the U.S. Treasury, that's not how it works. U.S. importers and companies pay those tariffs, and they pass the costs on mostly to consumers through higher prices.
Okay, so that, some of which I think you already knew. You knew, obviously, that the tariffs are passed on to consumers. That's a price tag we'll have to pay. Trump keeps talking about it as though it's some penalty that's being paid by the country, but it is obviously not. That's the most obvious point. The other obvious point, I think, is, yet it's being talked about in this ridiculous way by Trump, is the notion that you can somehow stem the fentanyl flow overnight, or even on any kind of timetable that makes any sort of sense, such that you could avoid these tariffs that Trump is talking about. I mean, specifically, the fentanyl flow is insanely difficult to stop. These drugs are cheap to produce, and they're coming in over the border in ways that the Mexican government could have almost no control of. So you're, to me, asking for something that falls into the category of his Muslim ban. Remember the Muslim ban that he did during the first 4 years? And that was done like in the first week or the first month. And he wants to shut it in. I want to shut the border, and I want to close off immigration from any Muslim country until we figure out what the hell's going on. That was his quote, until we figure out what the hell's going on. Well, until we figure out what the hell's going on, exactly what kind of timeline is that? I don't know when you're going to figure out, quote, what the hell's going on. Similarly here, I go, I don't know what you mean when you stem the flow of fentanyl. I mean, this is fine to say on the stump on a campaign speech and in the context of campaign speeches, but to somehow suggest that you have imposed this yardstick, which is completely imaginary. I mean, I don't know exactly how you gauge whether or not you've even cut down the flow of fentanyl such that you could eliminate these tariffs. The whole thing just kind of has a lunacy to it. Again, these are headline grabbers, and you could say, well, Mark, these are all negotiating tactics on the part of Donald Trump. Okay, sort of. I don't know why you'd want to pick such a destabilizing negotiating point, such a destabilizing negotiation strategy. It really does put us on the brink of a trade war, and it's not going to go unreciprocated. So as noted in that piece, I mean, you can end up with, okay, you want a trade war with your biggest partner south of the border? I think it's a mistake. Now, he's such a headline grabber, and then he'll just kind of proclaim things as a victory, or we've already taken care of this and there's never been anything like it. Look at what I did, just even by threatening it. We've cured the fentanyl crisis overnight, whatever. Maybe this falls into that category, but I think it's a scary way to proceed before you even are in office, and it may provoke a kind of economic result that he's going to have trouble putting back in the bottle. He's going to have trouble dealing with. I mean, once you get these trade wars started, it can be very hard to wrap them up in any kind of timely way. So that's where we are, though, today. In addition to all of his, the boot-licking cabinet and the boot-licking administration that he has with utter fealty to him and clearly to no end any sort of philosophical allegiance, he has in place in Washington potentially the perfect administration for him to do whatever he wants. And, you know, hang on tight, because I think there'll be more of this kind of thing to come. And I think it's our obligation to keep an eye on it and to call it out. So that's the way I see it from here anyway.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
I wanted to announce something kind of exciting. We have Courtney with us, Albert. Is she going to join us today?
She's standing by, yes. She's in
We
the
do
meeting.
it. All right. So my beautiful, lovely other half, Courtney, threw herself, I did not ask her to do this. She just threw herself into the world of our merch. And she has redesigned our logo. You see the logo in the upper, I guess it would be right-hand portion of the screen if you're watching on YouTube. It's done through a kind of partial redesign. In addition, we have a merch company that's allowing us to have our merch on the YouTube channel. But she can fill you all in on this. How about it for my better half? Courtney, please. Hello.
Hi. Well, thank you. Yes. What a nice introduction.
I don't even remember what I said, but thank you. Unless you're being sarcastic, which is possible as well.
I'm not, but
Um,
that part rings true. I'm grateful to be on this morning. I mean, it's just before Thanksgiving. There's a lot of Black Friday sales, including one that coincides with the launch of the new merch store. And so we're really excited because we rebuilt the merch store. We have a partner that allows us to integrate into YouTube. So now if you're watching on YouTube on mobile or web, you can navigate over to the tab that says shop, and that'll take you to the partner's storefront for the Mark Thompson Show. And you can purchase some of our limited edition designs for the holidays. We also have a couple of new drops, including Chit Chit Chit.
Now, when you say new drops, you mean the new drops, because this is weird, Albert, you probably know this, I didn't know this. But when I say drops, I'm talking about, the
What?
Yeah, the sound drops on the show. But you mean, because Courtney, this is your world, design and fashion. That's what they call it when there's a new product. It's called a drop.
Yes, Boomer. It's called a drop.
How does the internet work?
Okay, stop with that. That's really nuts.
No, actually, in the context of this mention of it, I meant drops from the show. But yes, when you drop like new shoes or a hot, retail line or whatever, or a seasonal line, like that's a drop. But I actually meant drops from the show. You and I collaborated to source a couple of new drops from the show. And that includes Chit Chit Chit, which I know is a fan favorite. So we have 3 new drops from the show available. We have non-denominational holiday designs. They were in red and green. I've moved them over to some other colors to inspire, other ways that you can wear.
I like it. Look at Albert. Albert is cooking around it. In fact,
they're super cool.
They are. And, I don't have any of the stuff yet. I have never actually.
I know.
But you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to buy. Well, I have to buy that stuff. We all have to buy it off the site, just like anybody else. I'd like to buy it today, and I'd also like to maybe buy a listener or two something that they may want. Oh, I like that gray. Of course, I like gray. That's sort of a lighter gray, but I like the red and the green also for the holidays.
Yeah.
That, happy non-denominational holidays. I like that.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's all inspired by the logo. You can see the little talk bubble has sort of a Christmas accent to it, or a holiday accent to it, I should say, with the snowflakes. And we're really excited. We love how these designs came out. Obviously, these designs will only be through the holiday season, and then we'll move on to something else. So, KGO and XL merch. Yeah, we can add that for sure.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Trump will put tariffs on all the Mark merch. That's crazy, says shadow producer Calvin Long. He's right.
I was just thinking that. So you're gonna, there's a 40%, it's up to 40% Black Friday Cyber Week sale on our partner site. And then you can be charged 25% additional to make up for Trump's tariffs.
Hard to believe that Chit 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 is a favorite. It is a favorite. Chit 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 is huge, as we say. Yeah. Now, you can get Chit 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 on a mug or on a shirt. Is that the idea?
Right now, it's on a mug, but we can also, we can obviously
we'll make it over to a shirt. Yeah. Okay, so to review, the hot shirt for the holiday is the Happy Non-Denominational Holidays, and you can get that with the. You can get that in the different colors. You can get it also with, the different way that the word non-denominational is festooned with holiday lights. And there's also the holiday tree and then and our logo. And so really the name of the show isn't even on it. It's just it's very tasteful, Courtney.
The logo that's how we do it here, Mark.
Yeah, very, very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah. But please go support it. It was a lot of fun to put together. We'd love your support and hope that.
So how do people shop then for it? One more time. It's right below YouTube. You can see it right there. You click it.
So there's a couple ways to shop. if you're watching and you're interested, you can navigate over to the tab that says shop on YouTube. You can shop from there. Once you click on an item, it'll take you directly to the TeePublic site, which is hosting our store. You can also go to Get Mark Merch, all one word, getmarkmerch.com. And there, that will also take you to the store. It'll also feature all of the new designs, so you can look at them in a gallery. And those, yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's exactly right. You can, so the Get Mark merch still works, and it takes you to, there it is, our if you're on YouTube, you can click down below. Most people know this. Or you can go to our website for merch, which is getmarkmerch.com. So it takes you to this third-party site, which is hosting all of our stuff. But you'll see it there, right? On Get Mark Merch, there it is. Get Mark Merch, 100% effective. So, yeah.
In true production form for the Mark Thompson Show, occasionally the pricing is coming out in the British pound. So
What?
I think it'll change. I think it'll change once you go to pay.
I see.
But
it doesn't change the price. It just changes
no.
Wow.
It's just it's imagining that we're all enjoying a British vacation for our Thanksgiving. So yes.
Wow. Well, it's very very exciting. There's a certain upscale quality to it coming.
I know, right? It's
Love it.
yeah, has an Anthony Davis quality.
People are calling in already. I'm here at Merch and people are there's a line right now. Yeah, it's Mark Thompson merch site. Can we help you? All right, so yeah, it would have been nice if somebody took the phone book before we started the show, but thank you. This is what happens when you do the show from the house. And fortunately, there's no one else here to answer the phone, so it'll just keep ringing like this for about 30 minutes. So
I actually thought that was a drop, but it's not. It's well,
this is I wish this was a drop. It's not.
Yep. It wouldn't be an authentic.
Just don't get it, do you?
Arm of the
You don't.
I don't.
Something wasn't happening.
This is hilarious.
Yeah.
I may have to get up and undo the whatever. Okay. Courtney, you're wonderful. Love you. Talk to you soon. And thank you for all the hard work on these
Thanksgiving, everyone.
On these various items for in our merch store.
Of course.
Job well done.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you
dear.
so much.
All right. Courtney, everybody. How about it? Bye-bye.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep up with things that are coming here, even as we are on remote. And I still don't know what chit means, says William Lundgren. It was a thing that Kim said.
Yeah, Kim sassed Mark, and she chitted Mark, actually.
That's right.
Who is the name of the show? And this is his thing.
Yeah, it was funny.
It was an iconic moment, though.
It was, because I had asked Kim, I said, are you okay doing the news quickly, and then we'll get to whatever? You've heard me ask that kind of question before. And then normally she'd say, yeah, let's do that. But instead she said, well, chit, close the marky mouth and I can get it done. Or something like, right, Albert? Wasn't that it? She was, if you can close the marky mouth.
Yes.
Which was wildly disrespectful and incredibly unprofessional. I'll put it this way. If I'd said that to her, I'd have a lawsuit on my hands. Right? But we loved it so much because it was our Kim, who is sort of unfiltered, that we turned it into the drop. So, but we took out the most abusive part of it, the close the marky mouth part, and we just go chit. But chit is fun. It works in a lot of different ways. And I had another question about one of the drops. Here we are in holiday week, so you'll forgive a little bit of these digressions. But yeah, you answered your own question. We could try ignoring it, sir, is from Airplane 2. That's exactly right. Good, Karen Cooper. Good grab. Was there anything else? I saw that there was a question about that, but anything else in the chat, Albert, in the super chat?
Yeah, let's quickly get through the super stickers. Pamela Kirby with $5.
Pamela Kirby, who is an OG. Big shout out to you and thank you for the super sticker for a $5. She is awesome. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And Luis, also an OG, thank you for sending us Blake Snell, Albert. Sorry for your loss. Now on to, why don't you read this, Albert? You know who these people
Now
are.
on to getting Roki Sasaki. It's just the nuclear arms race in baseball now is just the Dodgers collecting all the pieces. So
yeah, you're being trolled by Luis, who he's a Dodger fan, and you're a Giants fan.
yeah, because we signed Blake Snell and we were happy about it, and then we didn't trade him at trade deadline, and he opted out when we weren't doing well, which made total sense. And then now he's on the Dodgers, so it's horrible. So
yeah. And this. Croquet Film, who we haven't heard from in a while, says, just got to get your attention. What's your email address for working out?
I didn't think that would. It was working out any Patreon problems.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Then, yeah, the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com is the site. And you can reach me there, and that'll reach me. Okay. And I'll look at whatever your problem is, and we'll get to it. I have some PayPal people that I want to thank in the second hour, because in addition to Patreon, PayPal is a really robust community, and a lot of you have come there. And at the end of every month, we update our list of donors. We always scroll our patrons, and it's so rewarding, honestly, is the word I would use, to see the way you guys have stepped up. And the PayPal community has really been great. So I will get to that a little bit later on. But anyway, if you're having problems with either one, PayPal, Patreon, just email me, themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. And if I can answer it, I'll try to. What was that? My close friend just died, misdiagnosed stage 4 cancer. She passed. It sucks, says Spencer. Wow, that's horror on horror, right? I mean, we all have had some experience like this, not to in any way suggest that I can imagine how you feel. But when you lose somebody who you care so much about, and you feel as though the medical community and the medical process had let down this person such that they would still be alive were it not for the fact that the medical community and the medical processes let them down with a misdiagnosis in this case, I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, it makes it worse. Of course, it makes it worse. So I'm sorry for that loss. Tiff MLA with a $20 super chat, $19.99. Happy Thanksgiving to the Mark Thompson team. I'm so thankful to you guys. Love your show. That is so cool. Thank you, Tiff. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate the nice words. Noe Marie says, Albert, are you too young for the Dickies pinstripe skater pants? If not, how is your MySpace top 8 doing?
I am not too young, and my MySpace top 8 is going strong. And my AIM user, just all that stuff. I was very much into that era, so that's my wheelhouse.
Good for you, Albert. You got to be into something. Yeah.
I'm not a TikToker, so that should say something.
Vilma says exemptions to tariffs will be king, and the citizens of our country will get the bill in the price of products we buy. Vilma is 100% correct, and this tariff thing is insanity. People need to explain it to Trump, but the more you explain it or you try to, obviously people, now he's just surrounded. So he's not going to have it explained. Albert, could you get that phone and...
we have one more donation here. We can hit a break.
I will. Yeah, we'll do a break, and I'll get rid of this phone, and I'll chuck this phone to the backyard so you won't hear it anymore. But
this is our last one. I'm
right,
curious as to what the boys who tore up Ottawa, Windsor, and parts of Alberta who supported Trump in Canada with Dixie flags think of the 25% tariffs.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, there you go. There is a, I'll just answer this in kind of a serious way, but I'll just not take a long time to do it. There is a rise of populist rhetoric and populist support around Trump that doesn't have a lot to do with policy. It has to do with the perceived macho. It has to do with perceived strength. And I was reading a great piece, and I actually intended to read it to you today, or parts of it today, about strong men generally, and how strong men will always let down those people like the truckers to whom you've referred, who supported their ascendance. It will always happen. The strong man, and it's a strong man typically, will always be the despot, the authoritarian, always be about themselves. So we know this to be the case in the Trump administration. They'll double down on bad policy, anything so that the emperor has clothes, even though we know the emperor's policies reflect no clothes. So the emperor knows nothing about that which he's crafting policy around, and yet he is carrying a big stick and talking tough, and that authoritarian strength is something that people spark to. In the case of the truckers, I think they are inspired by it. Will any policy that Trump is promulgating in any way support those truckers or in any way feed their bottom line, make their lives better? Of course not. Of course not. But that is the reality, I think, of an emerging strongman in the case of Donald Trump. Smash the like button like a boss. We're going to go to Disneyland for a quick hit with Kim coming up as well, and much to do today. Also, I want to mention that Belinda is going to be here with the segment that we do on Wednesdays. It's the Planet Stupid, so that's going to happen also promptly. So all of that still to come. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
I blame you.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
You cannot say you love your country.
Morning.
Where are my weed smokers at? Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
I love it when you're angry. We're in better shape, but I don't think we're in wildly better shape.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
This is a man with anger. This is a man that has resentment towards you.
There's always been in this country 30 to 35% idiots.
That's pure speculation.
That's not fake. That's real.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Why are you yelling?
All right, everybody. On it, on it, on it, on it. So excited. Wow. I know. Very exciting indeed. Albert, you're going to keep me posted on what's happening. We've had a couple of things already just to kind of explain. We are on remote today. I came back to Washington, D.C., where I grew up, to be closer to lobbyist money. This is really where I feel most comfortable. All of my money is being used in one way or another here in this town. Of course, if you're in the military-industrial complex and the series of lobbies that are associated with that, the money never leaves the Beltway. Huge weapon systems are purchased and, as you're aware, promised all of this government money. And, of course, it never leaves the Beltway. Then you have the big pharma money, you have the insurance money, you have all of these lobbies that are pressing on every administration. And this new presentation, I think, by the Trump administration suggests that they are open for business. So look for them to be surrounded by a lot more of this kind of thing. Currying favor with the current administration is nothing new, but these guys are going to take it to a whole other level. Let me see. Robert Lewis. Who's this? He's new, right, Albert?
I'm assuming
you have a
because
broadcasting voice. I'm going to figure this out, sir, because I like you. What's that?
Yeah, I'm assuming he's new because he doesn't
you.
recognize the voice.
Yeah, it's surprising that,
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal, but not everybody recognizes that I'm a big deal. Tess, wait a minute. I'm seeing this now on this day before Thanksgiving. Tess Downey with a $70 super chat. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, first of all, Tess. Secondly, I missed my 7-month anniversary donation of my triple bypass. Remember? Yes, the triple bypass. I mean, a triple bypass. Tess clearly doesn't do anything on a small scale. She wanted that triple bypass. And she missed the 7-month anniversary of the triple bypass because she says I had 2 AFib issues in the week of DJT's ascension, Trump's ascension, she says. I can't listen to politics for a while, bad for my health. P.S. We are vegetarians and eat Rancho Gordo beans. Try to get them to sponsor your show.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It really might. It really might. So it is with that I thank you, Tess. We also, my sister came in last night, and she, you can always tell when my sister arrives because there's a smell of pot in the house, which you didn't really have here when I was growing up. Yeah, there was no smell
weed smokers at?
Yeah, so my sister, who is fighting all kinds of physical pain, she was in a really serious car accident some years ago. So she's got like bottles of CBD, THC, this one's CBD, this one is a salve you can put on, this is an ointment that's CBD. She's got it all. And why did I start this story about her? I'm trying to remember. This is the contact high. I can't remember anything. But it was
anybody but a weed?
Something related to Tess, I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. It was the vegetarian thing. Is also vegan, and she's a cook. She's a chef. So she comes in and she whips up these great. I was having these magnificent mushroom wrapped en croûte things, and they're in like a pastry last night. I was just eating until 3 a.m. It was pretty terrific. So there's plenty out there for vegetarians and vegans for the holidays. You know, for the traditionally meat-filled holiday. So that's the way we see it from here. Smash the like button if you would, as we have
with your iron rod.
We have an extended break, our first break in a while. Tomorrow and Friday there'll be no show, but we wanted to get a show on for you, even though I'm away and Kim's away. We wanted to get a show for you, so I decided to, power up and periscope up from this remote location in Washington, D.C., and really appreciate being with all of you on this day before Thanksgiving. And someone else who rallied on this day before Thanksgiving is our eco-journalist, Belinda Waymouth. So now, without delay, let's do it. It's the planet, stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth. A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet, stupid. No, it's the planet, stupid.
And as mentioned, our guide for It's the Planet Stupid is eco-journalist Belinda Waymouth. Belinda, hello. Welcome.
Hello. How are you?
I am well, and I watched with interest as the nations got together to try to put together some sort of strategy on the climate catastrophe that is coming. And, I think very little of people as a collective. I think human beings are the scourge of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
The exception being, of course, you and the people who watch and participate with this show. But I'd say apart from those people, it's very hard to find the collective of humanity doing anything that's really positive. This is my worldview, not yours. You are an optimist, of course. But sadly, the nations of the world, the most powerful, wealthiest nations of the world, have once again fallen into what I'd suggest is a predictable, awful decision as opposed to an uplifting decision when it comes to climate. Do you want to tell everybody what Saudi Arabia and Russia have done with the fossil fuel pronouncements, or do you want me to tell everybody?
Well, I can tell them.
Okay.
I love how you really set this up, how you feel about humanity. And I get it. When you see what happens at these COPs, it's awful. But, you know, the decision, Mark, the decision to have the last three, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, and then I always say this country's name wrong. Maybe you'll say it for me. Azerbaijan. Yes, there we go. Between the two of us, oh my God, we're amazing. We're amazing. Okay, so to have
no wonder we can't come to some kind of agreement. We can't even say each other's countries' names. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, but to have COP in 3 petrochemical states is bonkers. Now, this is last year, and this is them where they felt triumphant because they had actually got the wording, you know, into the final agreement that we were going to be moving away from fossil fuels. And then what happened this year was, you know, Russia and Saudi Arabia got in there and lobbied. I mean, there were 1,700 oil lobbyists at COP this year, COP 29. That is insane. You know, this is about the climate and what the biggest thing that's driving the climate. I mean, for the US, it's absolutely our oil and gas use. You know, it's crazy. For other countries, it may be deforestation. But here and in developed nations, it's the energy that we use. And they lobbied and they got the ear of United Nations delegates, and they made sure in the final, you know, this is what we agree to. We're not going to put it, you know, in the phasing out of fossil fuels. And people just lost their minds. I mean, people go nuts. I actually want to go to the next COP, but I think, you know, they're sort of devolving into something terrible because we're really having this, you know, sort of knockdown, drag out fight. And it's the thing we've talked about quite often on the show. You know, change is really hard. You know, for human beings, who you say are the scourge of the earth, change is really difficult for us. You know, we don't like it. And there's such a sort of push-pull happening because we are making this transition, you know. I mean, since Russia invaded Ukraine, you know, the EU is up to 50% of their electricity production comes from renewable sources, you know. I mean, the change is happening. And, you know, we're about to have administration change here, which is going to try and swing the pendulum in the other direction. And of course, that had reverberations through COP29. I mean, they're all freaked out. You know, what is the Trump administration? You know, what effect will that have in the world? And I just see this as a very, very, very difficult transition for us to make. And it's because of money. It's money and power, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the transition. You're talking transition from fuels to alternative energies.
Yes, the transition to renewables, and it's not going to be. It's not going to be a simple
I just want
thing.
to when you were talking about transition,
we don't want to mistake it with the administration transition we're about to have. So the COP29 ended up being
just to summarize where. Yeah, I apologize. We're in a kind of internet hell where now this is not my normal internet. I'm on a line that is a little delayed, and I think you are too. So I apologize for talking past each other. But what I was going to mention is that, again, as you suggested, the rich petronations, the Saudi Arabias, the Russias of the world, this is a little like the UN. They're going to, because you made me think of it just now when you said this is turning into something else. And I think it is this performative thing where nations pledge something. They pledge to try to get off fossil fuels. And we don't even know that those pledges are going to be honored. They haven't really been honored at this point. And then really to the point you're making, the broader point, they can't even in a performative way get a kind of agreement to get off of these fossil fuels or transition off of these fossil fuels, even as they recognize these dangerous levels of global warming. It's again, it's a pretty sad state of things when you can't even get them to agree to language on a non-binding agreement. Okay, this isn't something that, you know, anybody's going to come over and there's no enforcement mechanism really for all of this. So I was really downcast to see it, you know.
Yeah, and I think particularly with, 2015, the COP that happened in Paris, where all the nations of the world agreed to 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. That was such a huge sort of breakthrough moment. And I think everyone was so heartened by that and like, okay, we have this goal and we're going to try and meet it. But of course, we haven't met it. We're already at 1.5 degrees Celsius of heating. Now, not universally all the time, but, Ventura County, north of where we live, Mark, they're at 1.3 degrees, Celsius of extra heat in the atmosphere. And different places around the world have those moments. And we're already seeing, the effects of how much carbon is in the atmosphere already. I mean, these are dire, they're absolutely dire. And I sent you the article, I think, about the attribution that attribution scientists have been looking at, so storms, floods, droughts, heat waves, these terrible fires. And, they attribute the severity of them to climate change. And when you look at the last couple of decades, millions of people have died from heat waves, and that includes thousands of infants, of babies. So, it's game on and it's real. So then when you have these leaders come together to supposedly talk about doing something about this, this is a woman, this is in Portugal, and she's screaming for help, and it's like, lady, get in your car and start driving. Like, this is, I don't know who you think is next door and who can stop the fire that's, in the background. I mean, this is so intense.
This is just to the point that was being made, and you just referenced the article. The article, I think it's in The Guardian, it just begins to essentially bring a coherence to all of these different events. 24 previously impossible heat waves have struck communities across the planet, they say. A new assessment has shown, providing stark evidence of how severely human-caused global heating is supercharging extreme weather. The complete cause and effect is so well established at this point. And so you've got these impossible heat waves that you talk about that have taken lives in North America, Europe, Asia. And this would not happen without human-caused climate change, is the point.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the fact that we're not, at this moment doing everything we can to, curb our emissions and, get right-sized on the planet as far as resources and living sustainably goes, I think for advocates and activists and scientists, who go to COP to advise and to try and agitate, I mean, they're losing their minds. And scientists say, this is really hard to kind of hold on to our equilibrium, because we really see these, stark facts. And then to have an administration about to take over, and, they're talking about, day one, they're going after it's a no to migrants and it's yes to fossil fuels. And, this is insanity. And the fact is, the three things that are driving the use of energy in the world, one of them is air conditioning, because people are too hot. They need to cool down, and so they need air conditioning. And 40% of Africans don't have access to electricity. So when they go to COP, I mean, this makes me emotional, 40%. So when they go to COP, this is their lives, Mark. This is their children, this is their survival. And, that's a continent that is already, on the edge, and so to be having these droughts, to be having these heat waves, and to not be able to get relief from them. I mean, the rest of the world needs to step up its humanity. That's what developing nations need to do.
Well, that's what the developing nations are saying. I mean, they're saying exactly that. They're saying, this paltry amount that you've given us to try to beat back climate change and climate crisis related problems is just simply not enough. And you talk about the drought, and you talk about, Azerbaijan and these other areas in which, these COP nations meet. There are also these South Pacific nations, as you've reported before, these small islands that are already being engulfed by rising seas. So you see the effects all over the globe. It seems a clarion call by nature, and yet, as you've suggested before, we just don't do well with this kind of thing. We don't do well with the change, which you have noted here today, and we don't do well with slow moving, perceived as slower moving future issues. We don't do well as a species with that stuff.
Yeah. Something that's crescent, which means slow moving. Yeah, we just can't see it. And also, you can't see CO2 going into the atmosphere. And it was like I was saying also last week, to be able to see the bigger picture, the sort of meta picture, because obviously what drove a lot of people when they were voting was the economy. But what you have to realize is the American economy is being really hurt by climate change. I think they said the bill for last year for climate change related disasters was, over $1 trillion. And most of the damage was done here in the US. We had huge damage to infrastructure through, flooding and storms and things. So, and a lot of infrastructure to damage, because it's a very developed country and it's a huge country. But yes, it's a little bit mind-boggling, and it's a little bit mind-boggling to have a president-elect who's going to take office on January 20th, 21st, and straight away says he's going to be drilling. He's going to open up those LNG, the liquefied natural gas projects, the 5 down the coast of Texas and Louisiana that President Biden put a stop to in January. Well, Trump's team believes that those are just a slam dunk. They take, office and the next day those will be up and running. And they won't be, because they still need their environmental assessments done. And until that gets, overturned, that, you can actually do environmental assessments of, fossil fuel projects. But it's also, federal land, oceans, Native American land. They're talking about, drilling everywhere. And we had the listener ask last week about ANWR, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And obviously it won't quite look like that because it's, covered in snow. It's home to musk ox, caribou, polar bears, and lots of different species of bird. That's Alaska. And Alaska, they like oil drilling, but you've got tribes divided. Some tribes are saying, we want the income, and other tribes are saying, no, this is sacred land. These are sacred animals. We can't do it. It's the size of South Carolina, by the way, the area that they're looking at and saying we're going to open it up. And they are particularly interested in the North Shore. Interestingly, back in the 80s, some native corporations that did hold rights to drill there, looks there at the caribou, they did put down a test drill. And they've been very quiet on the results. So people don't really know, what's there. And it will be interesting also to see if oil companies sort of rush up there, because the fact is, we're already at peak. Last year was our biggest year for drilling for gas and oil. That happened under the Biden administration as a direct result of COVID and what happened to the economy, and then Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We upped our drilling because we needed to supply the world, or we felt that we needed to supply the world. So why we would need to go into this pristine reserve when we're already producing so much oil and gas?
Well, that's the point. It became a political talking point for Donald Trump, and to suggest somehow that we are falling way behind in whatever, fill in the blank, economy, oil production, whatever, that was part of his dance. And people were responsive like, I don't want to fall behind. Wow, we're falling behind. I didn't even realize we're falling behind. Yeah,
we're ahead.
Yeah, actually, we're ahead, as you've just noted, and we never produced more. And in fact, you could express frustration with the Biden administration for not being more aggressive in this way. But again, given the alternative, and it really is sadly one of these things where you just have to choose one or the other. I'd suggest the existing administration, the Biden administration, is much better for the environment than the incoming administration, which doesn't care at all about the environment to the extent that they will dry clean all government websites from any messaging at all or mention of climate change, to the point that there are certain appointments who are being instructed not to mention climate change in any way. So at Interior, at EPA, these are high-profile government agencies that are going to be run by people who will not even mention the words climate change. And last thing, I just wanted to, from the article that you referenced, the extreme weather events they point to, these impossible extreme weather events with a vanishing low probability of happening without the turbocharge of human-caused global heating, are particularly striking, they say. So these are weather events that one might find, but they're actually much more amplified than we'd ever find in any kind of natural, if you will, Earth laboratory. They show that the burning of fossil fuels has so dramatically changed the climate that heat waves are hitting communities with a severity and frequency never seen during the entire development of human civilization over the past 5,000 years. This is something you were just referencing. It's a new world for which cities, hospitals, roads, and farms are unprepared, and a world that gets even more dangerous every day as carbon emissions continue to be pumped into the atmosphere. And so that, in summary, is where we are, with more and more of these events, with no plans to really roll back consumption or these fossil fuel, the dependence on fossil fuel, and these fossil fuel-induced issues will continue to crop up in ways that we've never seen and with a severity we've never seen before.
Yeah. It'll make everything harder. It's harder to grow crops when you don't have water, and that's a thing that really we should be taking, notice of, because we have a huge global population, and to not be able to feed people because of this extreme weather. And it's already happening. And like I was saying last week, it's one of the huge push factors in the migration of all these people, from African nations, from South American and Central American nations, northward to richer countries where they're hoping they'll be able to make enough money to feed their families, and that's a completely understandable impulse. We have a huge impulse to want to survive. But, when we think about our survival on a, sort of a bigger picture, we're just myopic. It's kind of unbelievable to me. But anyway, I sound
all
like
right.
a broken record.
Before we have to say goodbye, did you want to, the bear stuff that you did last time, you had some great video on that. And you had some video that you also sent along with elephants. You just come from this great trip to Asia, and Albert, do you have that stuff? It's really cool. So tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, so this is the day that Jake and I spent at the elephant village and sanctuary outside of Luang Prabang. That's us washing the elephants. You get this big, very intense scrubbing brush, and you basically scrub their skin, and they love it. And you get to feed them, you get to hang out with them, walk with them in teak forests. I mean, it was so magical, Mark. And here's the thing about these elephants. So they have 7 female elephants who have been saved from the logging industry. That means they're happy when they flap their ears like that. Oh, and the mahout, the guy in charge of the elephant, he was getting it to splash its trunk like that. So Jake and I were really getting a shower while we were doing our elephant bathing. But these elephants, they're all females, and they've been saved from the logging industry, where they are forced to work for 16 hours a day. They are fed amphetamines. They are poked with knives and hooks in their hindquarters to drive them. It's incredibly cruel and dangerous. One of the elephants who's there has lost part of her foot because she stepped on a landmine. The thing that's slightly sad, I also sent the website, and if you go to that link, Albert, it will show the 7 different ladies who are there, and it gives you like a little blurb about each one of them and tells you about their personalities. So elephants, as you can see, love to eat. In their natural state, Mark, they eat for 20 hours a day, and they only sleep for 4, and then they get back on the job of eating, because they're 3 tons, the females, and the males are 4 tons. So all they're eating is, cellulose. It's complete. They're eating the trunks of banana trees. They eat sugarcane. They eat bananas. You have to be careful. They're not allowed to have too many bananas or sugarcane, because they can get diabetes. So at the sanctuary, which was started by an Australian and a German guy back in 2001, they said, look, something has to be done for these elephants that are in this really cruel industry. And they set up this sanctuary and village, and tourists who go there to spend the day with these amazing animals, the revenue then pays for the mahout. They have one mahout who looks after them. There's no elephant riding here. That's considered, no, you don't do that anymore. So they phased that out at this place in 2019. And then also money goes back to the logging industry owners. So they get compensated for not having these beasts of burden, these, workhorses anymore. During COVID, when there were no tourists in Luang Prabang, the elephants actually, these women had to, these female elephants had to go back and work in the logging industry because there wasn't tourism,
God, that's
money.
So sad.
I
That's
know,
so sad.
I know. And when you hear about, it's just ghastly. But, now they're back. They're hanging out every day. They get completely spoiled and loved up. There are 2 babies, but they don't let the babies come and be with the tourists. They stay in the 80 hectares that they have at night of jungle where these elephants get taken back. They hang out with the babies. And then they come back the next day, to be with the tourists and, earn, money in a very different way than they used to be earning money. The thing that's so important about these sanctuaries, one of the things that's a bit sad is the male elephants don't get rescued because they're too aggressive. Asian female elephants don't have ivory, no tusks, so they are not in danger from that horrible, industry, which is great. But they said Laos was once the home of, 1 million elephants. They're now down to 1,000. 500 of them are working in the logging industry and 500 are in sanctuaries. Some of these sanctuaries aren't so sanctuary. They have to do elephant rides all day long. And, that's not cool. Don't ride an elephant, guys, when you go on holiday.
Well, the elephant, I don't mean to, I'll just keep this very brief, but elephants are, if you will, aware of their strength. They know they are the greatest beast, if you want to call it that, in the jungle and in the world, that they are, that they have a sense of that. And so that has to be beaten out of them in order to tame them for a ride, to give rides to tourists. That's done, and I'm not going to detail that now, but just trust me, I know this area very well, and it is done in the most horrifying way to beat that animal, and it's done with a very young animal. You can't beat an adult elephant into submission. They take very young animals, and the entire process is horrifying. So anyway, once they've, quote, tamed that elephant, then it grows up fearing the mahouts that were the trainers, and the mahouts, the trainers. They have these bull hooks and these other ways in which they can make the elephant do what they want. And that's how these rides happen for tourists. And that's how the other sort of work that elephants do transpires. It happens in this very cruel, ongoing, cruel way. So the world of the elephant is one of abuse, and it's pretty awful. And it's great that these sanctuaries exist. I love that you visited one. And in fact, I stayed, as I say, I visited Luang Prabang. I was there and I didn't get to an elephant sanctuary. And I feel that that's a failing of my trip. You made me want to go back. But that these great, majestic animals need our help is indisputable. It's absolutely, and I didn't know those numbers are shocking to think that there are just 1,000 left in that area.
No, it's really dire. And what they're very nervous about is that there's less and less land all the time because there are more and more people, and there's a lot of elephant-human conflict on the continent of Africa because elephants are hungry. Like I said, they eat 20, hours a day. They eat, I can't remember how many kilograms, 300 kilograms. I mean, liters and liters of water. I mean, it takes a lot to, keep that big body going. And the conflict that's happening with humans in Africa is really, terrible. And so we have to be really mindful about these big animals if we want to keep them. And it's definitely a concern in Laos. Like, what happens is if we have less room for them, how do we maintain them? And so to see these sanctuaries and these people who are so devoted, because the mahouts here, they're just lovely with the animals, and they teach you how to be a mahout. They tell you the words for, eat, no, kneel down, all the things that they get them to do. You learn to do that. And you've got to go back, Mark, because you can stay overnight there. They've got lodgings, there's a restaurant, there's a swimming pool. And you can go in the morning with the mahouts to the jungle where the elephants are, and you can bring them back with you. You know, I mean, walking through this teak forest with elephants.
That's wonderful.
I mean,
yeah.
it was really, I mean, Jake and I were like children. I mean, we were sort of giddy with, I mean, the joy of being with them. And when they flapped their ears, you know, it just was really, it was so gorgeous.
They're just wondrous and smart and sentient, of course, like all creatures are, you know, feeling, emotional, but sophisticated as well. It's it's really exciting to see your experience with them. All right, well, thank you for this. I feel like this is a nice little tonic, even though I understand some of the overall elephant news may not be happy, but it's good to see you interacting with those elephants that are safe for the moment, and the COP nations who, again, they couldn't get a deal that really is worth anything. That's no surprise. But I love that you guys, thank you for these elephant pictures and the elephant videos. This is just the absolute coolest. So that's a to be continued story, because the elephants in India, etc., there's a whole other world of elephant worship where they kind of claim to elevate elephant to like sort of a vaulted status in society, and they're actually one of the more mistreated creatures in those societies. I'm talking about India and other parts of Asia. So thank you, Belinda. Have a happy Thanksgiving. And
yes, you too.
We're looking forward to a lot more. Appreciate it. Belinda Waymouth, everybody. That is It's the Planet Stupid for today. Bye-bye.
More It's the Planet Stupid.
No. It's the Planet Stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, it is with the greatest anticipation that I'm waiting to speak with Kim when she jumps on. When is she jumping on? In another 15 minutes or so? How much time do I have?
You have some time. My schedule that I'm seeing has her down for noontime. So let me just send her a text, and we could maybe.
On the West Coast, it's noon. I operate on the East Coast, Midwest, Mountain, and West clocks and time zones. And why? You may ask. Because I am friend to all and citizen of all time zones.
What?
Yes. Right.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
What's that?
She is here, by the way. She just
Kim is here?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't recognize that she was in the
Mark Thompson Show.
If you're a viewer to the show, you know that Kim is one of our great producer news people. She puts together so much of the content that goes into this show. We give thanks every Thanksgiving that we even know Kim McAllister. And she has agreed and deigned to participate with us, even as she is on vacation. And she left me strict orders: leave me alone. I want nothing to do with you. But somebody in the audience asked for her to check in. And so she, as a result of that request, has agreed to jump in with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my second favorite McAllister, Kim McAllister.
Hi.
Hello. Look at you with your, so this is the happiest place on earth. It is Disneyland.
Yeah. So I've taken a break from the park going to pop back to the room to say hello. Hi, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Taking a break from the happy to come here to be busted down to earth. I love it.
It happens sometimes.
What, tell me what is going on at Disneyland. What is it? What is it?
Well, there's a brand new ride. They took the old log ride in Disneyland and they changed it into Tiana's Adventure. So everyone's trying to get on this ride, and you have to sign up in a queue, and they give you a number now. And then they'll call your number, and then you have to go wait in line. But it's hard to even get a number, so that's the big thing, is trying to get a number to go on the Tiana ride. So that's the newest thing here. But, it's fun, and the kids are having a great time.
And I'm sorry, but just let me ask you a quick follow-up. What the Tiana ride is, do you know what it is? Have you seen it?
It's a log ride. It's the same log ride, but the decorations have changed, is what I understand. Yeah.
It was something they had to change it because of some
It was
controversy.
something offensive. It was like the old briar patch thing.
Oh yeah. So
you know, where like the song of the
Jim
South
Crow
and
South
the whole...
stuff. Yeah, okay.
Sayonara, sucker to that.
Yeah.
So that's it.
See you later on that. Right. Exactly. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, well, that should be cool. So
Sayonara, sucker.
you signed up for that, and you're going to be on that ride later. Is that the plan?
Yeah, we'll be on the ride later. Mm-hmm.
So what rides have you taken already?
The Pirates of the Caribbean is my favorite, so we've been there. The new haunted house, which has kind of been redone, we've been there.
How did they redo the haunted house? Do you remember what the old haunted house was like, or what was it?
Yeah, they've added some features. Some ghosts, some old ghosts have returned, and they redid the
classic
front
ghosts
area.
have returned.
Yeah, some classic ghosts.
Isn't it more like a nightmare or the
Jack Skellington Nightmare on yeah. They do that every season though. Like during the holiday season, they change it to that.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that. Well, you know a lot of Disneyland stuff. Do you guys go a lot?
Well, we had a tradition to go every Thanksgiving, and then we stopped for a couple of years, and then this is the first time in a couple of years that we've come back. So, yeah.
So how many days are you going to be there?
We're coming home on Friday.
So during this whole time, you were actually at Disneyland every one of those days?
Yeah, we left the house on early Monday morning.
Right.
We went half day on Monday. We went yesterday, and then today is our, third day? Yeah.
Yeah, but you still have 2 more days.
Well, no, we go tomorrow, and then we get in the car and come home on Friday.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Disney. Wow. And the kids must really they can't get enough, huh?
Well, let me tell you this. This is the first time that I have been able to let my kids go off by themselves.
Oh, sure. That's right.
Yeah. So they're like
Disneyland
wandering
is pretty
around.
safe, I would think, right?
Yeah, but they're old enough now, both of them, to kind of be solo. So, yeah, it's good. My husband and I had lunch with just
this
the two
place
of us.
is fun.
It was fantastic. But I just really popped in to say happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a great, wonderful holiday with your family, and thank you for watching, and we're grateful to have you as part of this community.
Oh, that's very sweet, Kim. That really is. Well, it's been really fun. We've had a good ride, and we just topped 75,000 subscribers on the channel, so we're on our way. And I'm hoping that we can continue to build in some exciting new ways to evolve the channel. And I say the channel; it's a show, but it's on this channel on YouTube and across the audio platforms. But we miss your news, and we look forward to getting you back in. And Albert, do you have any parting comments for? You'll see that the Chit 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 is now part of our Mark merch, which is pretty cool. That's a new thing.
You can get Chit Chit Chit. Like, chit Chit. Either you love it or you hate it. The Chit Chit Chit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people love it, and it's going to be it's on a mug, and soon you'll be able to get it on a shirt. But right now you can just get it on a mug. The other thing that you can get, and all this stuff is displayed underneath our YouTube channel, but also at getmarkmerch.com. The other thing you can get is this non-denominational holiday greeting. See, there are T-shirts and mugs with the non-denominational holiday greeting, and just there it is. Happy non-denominational holidays. Yeah.
It really shows that we welcome all religions here.
That is exactly right.
Including
so well said, too.
The Church of the Iron Rod. Bring it all.
That's
Smash it with your iron rod.
Kim, we adore you. Have a great remainder of your trip. Thank you for taking time out of the Disney world to join us and to fill us in. Really do.
Happy Thanksgiving,
love
everybody.
You.
Bye.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Bye bye.
Bye.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Hey Mark, it's George Santos here. A lot of people are telling me you're a liar.
That's pure speculation.
What's a little lie between friends?
Morning.
We
we're in better shape, but I don't think we're in wildly better shape.
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
This is a word from the Lord, and he is not happy.
Good day, sir.
Seriously, what the
Why are you yelling?
Wow, it's great to have everybody here. I'm really excited. I'm just getting notes about my mic and stuff. Now I'm getting them. I don't know that I can do much. I'm going to do one thing here. This is the stuff that I have to do now. I'm not going to worry about it. I can't worry about it right now. Hey, I wanted to get to the Culture Blaster, who's going to make a special visit to us with some movies for the holiday weekend, because we're not going to be on the air on Friday, obviously, when he'd normally stop through. But before I do, I just, in the interest of current events and sort of what's happening now, I wanted to quickly update the fact that there's
The Mark Thompson Show.
Trump has nominated his Navy Secretary pick. No military experience, apparently.
What?
Gonna run. It's pretty wild. Trump's pick for the U.S. Secretary of the Navy is John Phelan, a wealthy businessman and Trump campaign fundraiser with no known military background. Phelan's incredible, this is a quote, incredible knowledge and experience will elevate the lives of brave Americans who serve our nation. That was what was written by Trump in announcing John Phelan as Secretary of the Navy. He will put the business of the U.S. Navy above all else. Well, he'll put the business of something above all else. The current Navy Secretary, Carlos del Toro, served in the Navy for 22 years. So on average, then, if you average the two together, then they've got a dozen years in, right? Because this guy, no naval experience, John Phelan, and the current Navy Secretary, 22 years. And so there is that. Good times. The other thing I would just mention is something that's happening in the world of migration from California to Texas. There's so much made of that. Reports circulating that Americans are fleeing California to lower cost living areas like Texas. The reality is that many are coming to California, even while the headlines are telling you that people are net going elsewhere. California was the second most popular state for Americans to move to in 2022. And California moves made up 9.4% of interstate moves nationally that year. In the 2024 report, California did not see high net migration numbers, according to this survey. Affordability cited as a possible issue, but the job market and the weather in the state has continued to draw people to set up roots in California. For all the grief, they say, this is a quote, that California has taken in terms of higher cost of living, more regulations, increased media coverage of crime in its major cities, it remains one of the most desired states for people to move to in the United States. That's from a financial literacy instructor who studied this data. When it comes to California, aspirations often override logic, especially to those in a younger age demographic, he notes. So even as there may be a net outflow from California, it is not as dramatic as many are making it out. And housing is a big issue here in California. And I say here in California, I'm in Washington, D.C. today. But, in California, the world of housing is fraught with issues of one sort or another. I mean, things are just so expensive. If there's even inventory, it's a mess. But that said, people still want to move to California in numbers sufficient that it does affect the demographics of the state. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
And the last thing I wanted to mention, because I won't have a chance to see you before the coming week. We'll be back on the air with news shows on Monday. This is a new show. We're live right now, but I'm just saying back from my studio, and we'll get things cracking then. As we slide into the holidays, we have a special holiday meetup coming, et cetera. But The question as to whether or not Joe Biden will pardon his son Hunter is something that's interesting to me. Now, we've said on this show for some time that he is going to pardon him. In fact, David Katz was the one who really hit me to that originally. Because of a number of different legal moves that Hunter Biden was making, it seemed clear that Hunter Biden had to be aware of the likelihood of a pardon. The reason being, otherwise you would take a government deal. You take some kind of government deal. But in a matter of weeks, he is set to be sentenced. He will appear in federal court in Delaware on December 12th. That's where he was convicted over the summer of buying a gun in 2018 while addicted to drugs. Several days later, he's set to appear before a federal judge in L.A. for sentencing on tax fraud charges. He pleaded guilty to that in September, just as a trial was about to get underway. So there's been speculation in Washington for months about whether Biden will pardon his son. They're legal, political, practical, and historic questions. Should he do it? Particularly in the wake of Trump's victory, Biden is on pretty strong ground, at minimum, to commute any sentence for his son Hunter. It's not a pardon exactly, but it's a show of mercy, right? That doesn't wipe the slate clean like a pardon, but it would take care of any kind of issue that Hunter Biden might have with having to serve time, and would just spare him and the rest of the family any further pain from the whole thing. I mean, again, Biden said, the older Biden, that he was not going to pardon his son or commute any sentence. He said that while running for re-election. But now that that's all done and you have a hostile administration coming in, I think there's good reason to change his mind, right? I mean, he was also taken out of the parties running for president. So he may feel as though, hey, look, that was back on the campaign stump when I was making pledges if I became president, but now there was no chance for me to become president. In other words, he might be able to even find some logical high ground. But the idea that Hunter Biden should serve time or get any punishment, I mean, it's somewhat absurd, since these charges, let's be honest, they probably would not have been brought against anyone else, right? Not to excuse any of the drug abuse, the gun charges, anything, but the idea and the tax charges, I mean, it's sort of, again, not to diminish them too much, but generally speaking, anything that would rise to any sort of legal threshold like this would be handled out of court. There wouldn't be any sentencing associated. There'd be repayment and fines associated with the taxes. I mean, all of this stuff would be pled down. So they pressured Joe Biden, the right wing of the Republican Party, successfully pressured Joe Biden into this. And so Joe Biden, being the good Boy Scout that he is, not only was cool with his son being prosecuted, he actually allowed the special counsel involved in the Biden case, the Hunter Biden case, to hire another special counsel, and the two of them went at Hunter Biden, and they came up with this, these charges and with this plea agreement. So Hunter Biden would have pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges. He would have had a pretrial diversion program entered in before trial, as I say, and congressional Republicans claimed a sweetheart deal. And the presiding judge in Delaware, Trump appointee, scuttled that agreement. Now, again, we can run this out, but just to run it out quickly here, I would say it overwhelmingly likely that Joe Biden will pardon or commute the sentence of his son. And I think it's a smart thing to do. I mean, you saw Trump abuse the pardon power more than any other president in our lifetimes. Certainly, I don't think it's too much of an ask after you've seen Roger Stone, Steve Bannon, and that rogues gallery of Trump appointees get pardoned, to see the son of the president pardoned on charges that likely wouldn't have brought any kind of trial on this level and even punishment on this level, on the talked about level, in any other case against any other American. So the Biden name in this case cost that guy, Hunter Biden. I'm no fan of Hunter Biden at all, but it certainly cost him in ways it would have cost no other American. Again, the last president pardoned war criminals, pardoned his family, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner's father. I mentioned Bannon. I mentioned Roger Stone. That pardon spree that Donald Trump was on and will likely be on again, I'd say it will make the commutation of the Hunter Biden case or these charges or even the pardoning of Hunter Biden just, a meh, please. So that's the state of that. We'll have to see the timing, but I would say if I'm Joe Biden, I'd do that almost reflexively is the word I was looking for. Because I'm here on remote. Everybody can hear us perfectly well. The signal is in and out a little bit. But Albert, you'll tell me if there's anything else I need to get to. I'd like to do that before I get to Michael Snyder. Is there anything I need to get to?
Yes, we'll do it. We'll try to get through it quickly because Michael is waiting.
Of course, that's okay. Michael's very patient, and he'll never complain about waiting. That's the great thing about Michael. Right, yeah. Except that he'll always complain about waiting every single time he comes on. No Contendo. Could you imagine Tom Clancy books about 45 White House? Exactly. I mean, this is a Tom Clancy situation. Great read. Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you for that. And big shout out to No Contendo. Yeah.
Shout out.
Vilma says, happy Thanksgiving tomorrow to you and your wonderful team. Love your show. Vilma, you are an OG, one of the originals, and we love having you as well. And a big shout out to you. Happy Thanksgiving. Joan Quickly with a 1999 super sticker. What up, Joan?
Big shout out.
Big shout out. I give you a big
thank you so much.
And a thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What is this, Albert?
I'm not sure, but big shout out for the $10.
Albert, thank you.
Don't know. Tumbleweed with a $10 super chat. Hey Duke lives. What is that, Albert? Can you tell me what Hey Duke is?
Hey Duke is a fictional character here. I just did a quick Google search.
Oh, I love that you did a quick Google search. That was what I was going to suggest. And what did you find? Fictional character.
The Monkey Wrench Gang. Not sure.
All right.
I've never seen anything like it.
Not sure what this means. Sorry.
All right. You're not sure.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Let them do it to me every day. $10. Thank you. And hey, to live. No Contendo with a $5 super chat. Renewable energy will be an opportunity, BRICS, to backdoor the U.S. Trump walking in blind to this. BRICS to deal with the Kyoto and Paris Accord, Velvet Road times 10. There's a lot to this comment, but I'll just say yes to the first part. I mean, the BRICS nations can probably backdoor the U.S. economy, if you mean exceed the U.S. economy in ways related to alternative energy and renewable energy. Trump walking in blind to this is, of course, par for the course. I think Trump pretty much will walk in blind to everything. The BRICS to deal with Kyoto and Paris Accord, I don't know. I mean, I guess they are, but I would really like to see to what extent those nations, the BRICS nations, really do. They will deal with it on some level, but we'll have to see. And finally, if you're talking about the Velvet Road times, you're right. If they build it out, it could be an economic engine and an engine of real support for those BRICS nations. So we will see. Luis, MT Show, team family, here's to your much appreciated dedication. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving to all. Luis, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
and
much.
And big shout out to
big
Luis.
Shout out.
Harry Magnan, happy Thanksgiving to all.
Big
a $5 super chat. Thanks, Harry, and thanks for being part of our show so regularly. Lynn Love, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Big shout out.
Thank you for the $5 super sticker and super chat. Lisa Lanaroo, thank you, Lisa, for a couple of bucks in, and appreciate that also, and appreciate everybody who helps in support of the show. We are getting a little bit behind. I hate that, but it does happen occasionally, and of course it's Albert's fault today. but I do want to. Can I bring him in now?
Yes, I know he's patiently waiting for us, so I think now's the time.
Well, I don't. Usually we bring him in right on time, so I don't know. He normally doesn't have any kind of complaints. He is making a special trip here in view of the holidays. Will be off, and there'll be no show tomorrow and Friday. So he comes and goes on a rainbow. He is the Culture Blaster. Everyone, please put it together for Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster. Look at you. How are you, Michael?
Mark, I applaud your dedication to doing a show today, despite having to apparently use dial-up to be here for your 75,000 subscribers. So good on you,
It's clicking
buddy.
in and out. It's clicking in and out. I know. Very hard to keep a clean signal.
Anyway,
what with the interference and all.
As we approach Thanksgiving, I must again decry the senseless slaughter of so many innocent cranberries. This is a crime against nature, my people.
I'll hit decry with a ding word. Thank you. Yeah.
And, one more Thanksgiving note. I call it a hazmat alert. Don't eat any of that awful yam gunk covered in tiny marshmallows. That is the side dish from hell. I'm just giving you a warning about it. It's just.
Thank you. That added value to your segment. Thank you, Michael.
Never any good. I'm excited. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. And I'm happy to report that there are no out-and-out turkeys among the movies I'm covering today.
No.
Before we get into that, I do want to say, if you are looking for the perfect Thanksgiving movie and none of the films that I talk about appeal to you, you could definitely have a great time watching or rewatching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from 1987, which is a road trip comedy that John Hughes directed and wrote, and it stars Steve Martin and John Candy as two guys trying to get to their respective destinations on Thanksgiving and not getting along with one another very well. It is a funny, lovely, sweet movie. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles should be available for streaming somewhere in the internet. So let's get to new stuff. What do you say?
I agree, and I agree on the Steve Martin and John Candy magic in that movie. But everybody's magic in that movie. It's a beautiful movie and funny as hell. So good recommendation.
Okay. As for new stuff, let's kick things off with Moana 2, which continues the story of the brave Pacific Island girl Moana and her demigod buddy Maui, with Oli Cravalho and Dwayne Johnson back to voice Moana and Maui from the first film. This is a lively retread that's easy to like, but not to love as much as the first Moana, which introduced the daring teenage girl who becomes a wayfinder, someone capable of navigating the ocean to find a means to end the blight that's plaguing her peaceful island-bound people. And on that initial quest, she meets the once fearsome Maui, the demigod, who she helps find his mojo, and he in turn helps her solve her issues. And in the sequel, Moana decides to gather a motley crew for a new mission. It's not just her and her little chicken and her pig, and then Maui. It's a handful of other islanders. And like the sea that carries her and this now larger but less defined group of comrades on a vague mission to unite all the people of the far-flung islands, this movie churns a lot and is bound by infrequent but placid moments, and it just generally doesn't have the emotional impact of the first Moana. As for the songs, because like that first film, it's an animated musical, they didn't strike me as particularly memorable at initial listen. I mean, compared to, Popular from Wicked, or to get a little more close to home, previous Disney musical numbers like Part of Your World from Little Mermaid or Belle's Song from Beauty and the Beast, the Moana 2 tunes didn't stick, and nothing attains the ear-friendliness of the songs written for the first movie by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Mr. Hamilton himself. Especially
so
how
Lin-Manuel Miranda was not involved in this in any way, Michael Snyder?
No, sir, he was not. In any case, though, it looks beautiful. What? They have mastered, the sea, and it's surging. The sea is like another character. It's Moana's pal, and there is a villainous god who wants to bring down all of these people and keep them separated from one another, these different communities in different islands. And he has a cruel agenda and a few hench people. There's like a tribe of like animated coconuts that are kind of funny and engaging.
What?
And it does end on a note that seems like finality or something with potential for the future, and then they throw in an after credits or end movie cliffhanger. So clearly they're thinking about Moana 3. I don't know.
Oh my God, please. I mean, so it sounds like we should do a lot of edibles if you want to go to see this movie.
It's beautiful to look at, Mark, honestly.
Beautiful to look at, a great experience, and dancing coconuts. You had me at dancing coconuts.
I don't know. Great experience.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah, thank you.
It comes to mind. But yeah, when the coconuts show up, I think if you're stoned, you'll probably think it's the greatest movie ever made.
I'm loving it.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
I'm looking forward to giving it a thumbs up, even though there's no point to give it a thumbs up.
No, I'm giving it kind of one of them waving mediocre hands. 3 directors, by the way, have had to combine their talents to make this film. So
now, why is that? Is that because the first 2 were fired, or what happened?
I don't know. Too many cooks spoil the surging ocean. I have no idea what to even say about that.
You just don't get it, do you?
I don't.
You don't.
I don't get it. All right. Okay.
Let's move on to something I can really endorse. I mean, it's okay. It's a fun film for the family. It just isn't anywhere near the first film. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Sure. I get it.
Here's something I really can endorse. Now, if there was any doubt that Daniel Craig has left the role of James Bond behind, his gutsy, and let me call it a sweat-soaked performance in Queer will put that to rest. Queer, the latest movie from the acclaimed Italian filmmaker Luca Guadagnino, the guy who did Challengers and Call Me By Your Name, for instance, is an occasionally hallucinogenic and sexually explicit adaptation of William S. Burroughs' fever dream semi-autobiographical novel of the same name. So Craig plays the Burroughs role of William Lee, a gay writer and kind of dissolute American expat whose various addictions and his obsession with a handsome younger man lead him on a journey from Mexico City's randy bar scene to the jungles of South America in the early 1950s. I mean, Craig's hedonistic character, Lee, is decidedly not 007. In fact, more like 007, if you get what I'm saying here.
No, I don't get what you're saying. What do you mean?
He's a gay man, for God's sake. Anyway, there's a pudgy Jason Schwartzman on board as a fellow expat inspired by Burroughs.
You just don't get it, do you?
I don't get it.
Beatnik writer Allen Ginsberg. Schwartzman is good. So the situation is he's the character of William Lee is enamored of this former U.S. soldier named Eugene Allerton, played by Drew Starkey, a handsome man. And he woos this guy, and they eventually go off together on this odyssey into the jungle. And in the jungle, they meet Dr. Cotter, not with a K, with a C. And this is a greasy, grimy female American botanist gone native in the jungle where she's, quote, researching, end quote, mind-altering plants. And she's played by an unrecognizable Leslie Manville, most recently the tormented wife of a dead 20-something in the terrific miniseries Disclaimer, and the dowdy lead in the charming period dramedy Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. She is completely unlike those other roles, she has disappeared into this character of Dr. Cotter. So, bringing a novel by an unconventional master of cut and paste narrative, such as Burroughs, seems like a hell of a task. But Guadagnino and screenwriter Jason Kuritzkis were up to it. I mean, they break the story into 3 chapters, and they shift from this gritty, fetid reality to Lee's dope-fueled reveries. And although Queer may not be as flagrantly bizarre as David Cronenberg's film version of Burroughs' other roman à clef, Naked Lunch, it has its own psychedelic flair, especially when visualizing Lee's desires and drug trips. And Lee's odyssey into this psychological heart of darkness parallels his trip south with Eugene. And that's the heart of the movie. And that heart beats so furiously thanks to Craig giving everything he has on screen. Like Cynthia Erivo's Elphaba in Wicked, Craig's really complex and compulsively hedonistic performance as Lee seems to guarantee the actor nomination after nomination during the coming awards season. And speaking of Craig playing LGBTQ Americans, it should tide us over until he reprises his Southern Fried detective Benoit Blanc in the next Knives Out movie. Queer will not be for everyone. Some people will be shocked and offended, I think, even in 2024. But I thought it was very well done. It is in theaters starting this weekend.
I don't want to ask this question yet. I have to ask this question. Do we see sex on screen, or do we see because you make such a big deal out of him being this sort of Lothario?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we do. We see sex. I said sexually explicit adaptation. That's exactly what you said.
I didn't hear that part. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I've got iron rod.
You're in and out of the signal.
There are iron rods involved.
Wow. Okay, so that could be a little bit much. But okay, so that's in theaters?
It is indeed. In select theaters.
And by the way, let me just say something before I get an email about it, but I'm happy to respond to any emails. I just have an aversion to sex. I don't care, gay sex, straight sex, whatever. It's not a question of gay, straight. It's a question of it's sometimes seeing. I don't need to see the sex all the time. I am prudish that way, I think, in my movie going. I don't know. Maybe that was baked into me at an early age or something. But I'm not, as you know, I'm totally open on the sex thing. But just seeing it on screen can be a little unsettling, you know. I'm sorry, Michael. Maybe I should see someone about that.
This character, William Lee, based on Burroughs himself, is driven by carnal desire.
Right. So you need to see it. I get it. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that character, that's part of the character. You know, you can't escape that. And Craig was willing to go all out, although, you know, the magic of the movies, what can I say? I'm sure there was an intimacy coordinator on set. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. The Seed of the Sacred Fig is a very impressive and upsetting drama. And it comes from Iran. And, you know, it is about what happens when the political and the personal collide in a totalitarian theocracy. The director and screenwriter is a man named Mohammed Rasulov. And this movie, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, was shot over there in Tehran, I think, in secret. And you don't get the sense that that's the case, but there is found footage and archival things about university protests that exploded over the past few years about the oppression of the government. And the main character is a guy who is a judge in Tehran. He investigates ostensible crimes, whether they're trumped up, pardon the expression, or not, whether they're violating religious order or your standard criminal behavior. And he thinks he's going to get some kind of promotion, but there's all this unrest going on in town, and he starts to feel like maybe he's going to be targeted for not being as much of a hardliner as he should be. And meanwhile, his wife is dealing with his discomfort, and his two daughters, who are college age, are on the side of the more liberal approach to life and are not really crazy about being second-class citizens as women, including, you know, not being able to get jobs, not being able to speak out. And the tension is palpable here. The movie is about 2 hours and 45 minutes long, so it's not, you know, a short trip to Tehran, but it is definitely worthwhile. It is, I guess, with subtitles, so if you don't speak the language, you know, you can read what's going on in terms of dialogue. And I just thought it was a terrific movie that speaks out against oppression, totalitarianism, and it's powerful. I thought it was really something else.
All right, that's in theaters.
The Seed of the Sacred Fig in select theaters. Now, how about a couple things we can watch at home? You don't even have to leave your home on Thanksgiving weekend to watch the following two movies. Director David Gordon Green kicked off his career with a very well-received rural set drama called George Washington. Not about the president, but, that's the title. And it was followed by kind of the more rom-commy All the Real Girls and the broad stoner comedy Pineapple Express and various other middling offerings. And then most recently, he went on to revive the Halloween horror franchise, and he did the latest half-ass sequel to the original Exorcist. He started out strong, but he may be one of the most uneven directors working today. And now, with the dramedy Nutcrackers, Green takes on a quasi-holiday movie about a driven businessman from Chicago, played by Ben Stiller, who is roped into visiting his late sister and brother-in-law's 4 recently orphaned kids living on the family farm in small-town Ohio. And this all happens a few days before Christmas. So Stiller's character, the uncle, who is Uncle Mike to the kids, he's visiting as a local social worker, played by Linda Cardellini, is trying to place the boys with a foster family, even if 4 boys, including a teenager, are a tough sell. And so is this movie. The kids, played by a quartet of real brothers, are obnoxious, as is Stiller's work-obsessed Uncle Mike, and the story beats are generally as predictable as the ho-ho-hos of a department store Santa. The kid's mother was a rising ballet dancer in New York City before hightailing it to the boondocks with her hippie husband and giving birth to and raising the 4 boys. And her dance career and its legacy leads to the uncle and his nephews planning and executing an amateur performance of the Nutcracker to show potential foster parents that the kids would be a blessing to adopt. This has its moments, but it ain't
it's a
no
funny
holiday
premise.
It's not a holiday classic. It wasn't, again, not terrible. Michael Snyder, The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah.
It's on Hulu, by the way, so you can make up your own mind if you have a Hulu subscription. It's available right now. And, again, it has some moments. But not a holiday classic. Let's wrap things up with something that really hit my sweet spot. Beatles 64. So you can't get enough of the Beatles? You're in luck. The massive and revealing Get Back documentary, which was done by the great Peter Jackson, may have given an intimate view of the band as it was splintering near the end of the band's run. But Beatles 64 takes a absolutely fascinating and very entertaining look at the band on the rise during a crucial 2-week period in early 1964 when they first visited the United States and essentially woke America up from the lingering nightmare that was the Kennedy assassination that had just happened a couple months previous to this in November of 1963. So this is directed by David Tedeschi, and it's incorporating footage from the Males Brothers documentary of the era that they shot the Beatles for a period of time on their trip. I think the thing they made was called The Beatles in America, but these guys who made Beatles 64 got access to that footage and also performance footage from the Ed Sullivan Show and some concert footage, and using Peter Jackson's wonderful technological know-how, they spruced everything up. And there is interview and candid stuff that we haven't seen before. The boys and their vigor and wit are on full display. And I just thought it was really a worthwhile, I guess we'd call it roughly an hour and a half with the Beatles in New York City.
Where can I spend that hour and a half? Where do I see it?
It is on Disney Plus, and it was co-produced by Martin Scorsese and by surviving Beatles Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, both of whom appear, along with George Harrison's widow Olivia and the late John Lennon's son Sean. And Harrison and Lennon have archival interview clips that are there. And there are a few other people involved, and I thought it was really a treat, So,
okay, that's good stuff on Disney Plus. And when in 1964, the Beatles were working on what, Hard Day's Night, or that had already happened?
No, that was yet to come. They hadn't even done their album Beatles 65 yet. So,
Okay. So we see them sort of incubating some of these iconic songs. Is that what you're saying?
This is the beginning of their explosion of Beatlemania in America. They were promoting the Capitol release Meet the Beatles with I Saw Her Standing There. She Loves You was a hit at the time. And one of the coolest things about this is there's significant footage of the DJ Murray the K, who branded himself the fifth Beatle and wangled these interviews and hotel room moments with the Fab Four. And we see him kind of wiggling his way into the inner sanctum as best as he can. And it really was a treat, an absolute treat, and kind of a cool thing for a holiday weekend to watch. And again, it's on Disney Plus. Nutcrackers is on Hulu, and the other movies are in theaters.
All right. I'm loving this. So quickly, Beetle 64, you heard it. Michael really loves it, encourages you to check it out. Nutcrackers, the director, David Gordon Green, directed comedy with Ben Stiller and Linda Cardellini. It's on Hulu. He says it's not a holiday classic. There's some cute sequences. There's some funny stuff, but it kind of misses as a kind of a cornerstone holiday movie. The Seed of the Sacred Fig in select theaters is the film from Iran. Michael really liked it and encourages us to see it in select theaters. Queer is the Daniel Craig offering. He is the expat in Mexico City. The gay James Bond is south of the border. He ends up in the jungle with Drew Starkey and a Leslie Manville performance of Dr. Cotter. She's unrecognizable in this role. He really liked Queer and said, go for it. Isn't that right, Michael?
Yeah, it's not going to be for everyone. It may upset the more faint-hearted amongst us, but yeah, I thought it was really good.
All right. Now I'm actually more intrigued than I was the first time. I like things that get that kind of warning label on them, Moana 2 is where we started. It's a sequel to Moana. It's a new mission. Yeah. Michael feels it doesn't have the emotional impact of the first movie. No catchy music. The sea is beautifully depicted, according to Michael's recounting of things, and even you might consider the sea another character in the film. And he does offer this one little bit, which is that there's a cliffhanger at the end, which does perhaps set the stage for an exciting return of Moana.
What?
To Moana 3. Yes, I know. I'm quite taken by it.
If you're burned out on Dwayne Johnson, yeah, well, he's back.
You know
as
what? I
Maui,
cannot burn out on Dwayne Johnson. I'm surprised you could even suggest that. I mean, I consider that almost un-American to say. He is one of the great personalities in all of entertainment, Michael Snyder, as you well know. I think you were the one who first told me that. So
please don't blame me for that. Anyway, before we sign off, I do have
never seen anything like it.
I have an absolutely wonderful recommendation for those of you who are looking for a television series and haven't caught up to Bad Sisters on Apple TV, which is an adaptation of a Belgian TV series by the comedian, actress, and writer Sharon Horgan, who stars in the show as one of the Garvey sisters, an Irish crew of 5 sisters who have been dealing with various troubles, particularly when one of the sisters is being abused by her husband. And that goes down in the first series, which you can catch up.
I saw that part. Yeah. So what happens in the second part? They have to kill somebody else?
I don't want to spoil anything, Mark, but in the second one, a new adversary to the sisters emerges, played by the great character actress Fiona. I don't know, her name escapes me right now, but she's something else.
Okay.
And I do want to say one of the women who play the sisters, including Anne Marie Duff and Eva Berthistle and Sarah Green, are wonderful. And a special shout out goes to the totally engaging Eve Hewson, who is a legacy kid. She's a Nepo baby. She's Bono's daughter, and she plays the youngest of the 5 sisters.
Wow.
And she has real talent. No surprise, I guess. But, to have that kind of legacy of the superstar dad and come out from his shadow is pretty impressive. And I think Eve Hewson has been embarking on a really successful career as an actress, and she's great as the baby of the 5 girls, Becca. I highly recommend Bad Sisters, available on Apple TV.
Bad Sisters, it's on Apple TV. Michael, I wish we could continue.
No,
we must wrap up. It's really a nice run through all of those great offerings: Moana, Queer, The Seed of the Sacred, Nutcrackers, Beetle 64, and Bad Sisters. You can read Michael and discover more about Michael following him on social media. Are you on Blue Sky yet, Culture Blaster?
I am.
Are you on Blue Sky?
I am. Cultureblaster.bluesky.social. Absolutely.
Okay. And we are the MTS on Blue Sky. The MTS.
Excellent.
So he comes and goes on a rainbow. Michael, it is so fun to chat with you on this day before Thanksgiving. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and go Niners.
Go Niners. Gosh, what the hell's happening with the Niners?
Yeah,
Nothing good.
Nothing good. And they just reported that our star linebacker, Fred Warner, has been playing with a fractured ankle as well. So it just doesn't feel like it's the year.
It's sadly, they're too carved up, I think, Anyway, the Niners are sadly in trouble. Let me get to some things, Albert. Clear out the what you have for me, and let me react and then get out because we got to go. This is this is an overstuffed show today.
Just this one.
This is Ren, who is I think she's an OG on this show too. Ren says, thankful for the Mark Thompson Show and all of our peeps here. Happy Thanksgiving. That is so sweet. And big shout out to you, Ren. Thank you for that. And it is something that warms my heart to see all of our regulars. John Watson says, Queer might not be a film to take your family to see on Thanksgiving. Yeah, it doesn't seem as it depends on the specific makeup of your family, but I would agree with that. Motorx says, most likely, Mark, you're on an asymmetric internet, which means a high download to you and a very low trickle upload to the rest of the world. But you're the professional. You know all this stuff.
How does the internet work?
Anyway, you're the professional.
What?
And you know how all it works. I get what you're saying. I had no idea that that's what I was up against today. This is making me, okay, let me just get this. I finally get situated, Albert. I'll get my hoodie on straight. Now we can start the show. Anything else I need to respond to or not? Did you put something else up? I'm happy to respond
just,
or not.
The mention, I haven't seen you in the Blue Sky yet. Are you there?
I am there, Robert Lewis. Thank you. It is, oh my God. Sorry. It is.
That might be our cue.
Yeah, that should be our cue. I am Blue Sky, and the Blue Sky handle is the THEMTS. The MTS on Blue Sky. Blue Sky is just like Twitter. A lot of people are going there. Maybe one of the tech growth stocks of the new year, because it's quite impressive the way so many people are fleeing Twitter, or at least looking for alternatives to Twitter, and are ending up at Blue Sky. It has a much bigger growth curve in terms of usage, not just sign up, but usage than does Threads, for example. So if you're going to Blue Sky, it's just an app. You load it on to your phone like anything else. And again, we're the THEMTS. And then I'll hopefully build out more from there. Albert, thanks for coming in. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend. And thanks, everybody, for stopping through and supporting our show all year long. I will give thanks to you every day. Here's another call coming in right now.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. And we're back on Monday. Enjoy Thursday and Friday with your family or whatever you're doing until Monday. Bye-bye.